Look at this beautiful old pair of pliers. They really are lovely, even though they don't look it. And you don't get that level of rust after leaving it out overnight. These have been out for years, but I think we can get them back. They won't move, they're absolutely solid, but I think there's a way of getting these back. First thing we need is distilled vinegar. We'll just put these into an old jug. Pour in the vinegar. Now these things come for ease of putting it on your fish and chips with a plastic insert, but if you just knock that in or pull it out, then you can get rid of it. Now we need to make sure these are completely covered. That's it. Now we can use this vinegar again. I'll pour it back into the bottles and reuse it. It might be a different colour, but it'll still do the job. You can also add some salt to this, but I don't think it's really necessary. And now we leave it 24 hours. Come back and see me tomorrow. Right, so we've had these old rusty pliers soaking for 24 hours in the vinegar. I didn't put any salt in it. And the next step, an old oven tray is really useful here for this, is we'll take them out and rub them with a bit of wire wool and just see how much of this rust we can get off. And you can see as I rub how quickly that rust disappears. You don't have to rub them with or use an angle grinder on it at all. Can you see the rust there? And as I rub it, the surface is quite pitted, but it's old and it's been rusty for a long time, but these are okay. I don't think I can get them working still, but we'll pour some of this on it. Can you see how clean they've come up? Just for a soak in the vinegar. Now the next thing we're going to do is just give them a wash. This vinegar stinks and it's horrible. So I'll pop them in a bucket of soapy water. We'll save that vinegar because I shall distill that back into the bottles in a minute. There we go. And there we go, that's giving them a good wash. Now, the next stage is this water displacement Formula 40. They tried 39 times before they got it right, and finally 40 did it. And we'll put them in here for this stage and just give them a really good squirt of this stuff. It's good for the metal. It doesn't just freeze stuff up, it keeps it preserved. We're still not moving, but it needs a good soak in that. will do for another 24 hours. 24 hours time, we'll come back, see how this has worked in, and maybe we can get them moving. It might take a bit of a hammer. See you tomorrow. Right, so we've had these pliers now in WD-40 for 24 hours, and just look at this. Isn't that marvellous? Just as they're supposed to be. Now just have a look. You can see there's still some pitting, it's still a bit dirty. There's still some pitting on the surface, but the rust is gone. The vinegar took that off. And the next thing we can do is polish these up using the angle grinder and a polishing disc, and we'll see just how silvery we can get them. But they work, that's the main thing. These probably haven't worked for 20 years, and look at that, as good as new. Well, almost. Okay, well, we've had these in vinegar, we've had them in the penetrating oil, and now they work. They'll never work as they did brand new, and I'll show you why. If you look here, this wire clipping part just there, that's worn away, and that's often why people throw these things away or let them get rusty. You could grind the plier heads back so that it works, but there's really no need, because what a lot of people don't know is that this bit at the side does the same job. That is a wire clipper, and so you've got that side and that side. You don't really need that bit. Now what we want to do is try to take some of this pitting out, so we're going to try to polish them up, and for that, first of all, I'm going to use this angle grinder with a polishing buffing disc on it. I've got a leather apron on for this. It throws off some sparks. You do want some gloves, you do want eye protection. That's now been polished roughly with the angle grinder. There are parts you can't get at, like the very inside, so we open it to its fullest extent, put it back in the vise, and just some fine emery paper like this, and just rub it along the inside to clean it up as best you can. It'll wreck the emery paper, but that doesn't matter. Now, the next stage, just to give it a final clean up, I'm going to polish it with a bit of Duraglit. We used to call it Duraglit in the olden days. It's this stuff. Not sponsored. And give it a good polish with this. Doesn't hurt to do the inside again with this either. And we can run the file across these nipper bits. We're only tidying it up. It's, as I say, it's never going to work again, but having given it a good cover, pop it back in there, and I've got a soft polishing disc which I'm going to use. Always unplug the angle grinder before you change the disc, or you will wind up with fewer fingers than you started with. Nobody wants that. Now I've got this wonderful stuff. It's a rubberized paint solution that you dip the handles in and let it dry. But you can't just put it on. Before you do that, you need to clean everything off, because you don't want any moisture and you don't want any of the oil or grease that I've been putting on this thing to interfere with the paint and allow rust or anything else to grow underneath it. So you just give it a rub with some methylated spirits. Just make sure it's as clean as it can be. And even then, you do not put the rubberized paint on it straight away. It needs to be primed. And what we have here is some red oxide primer. Before you paint anything, you need to know what you're going to do with the thing you've painted when it's wet. So we've put a screw up there. I'm going to use these pliers to cut a length of wire. Hopefully it will work. Now, as I said, I don't expect this piece to work at all. That's worn out. But I've been lucky. It's not completely worn out. And I'm going to wrap that around here. There, that's not going anywhere. And form a loop. Just to hang them up. Both when I've put the primer on them and the rubber paint, and I'll put something down on the floor to stop any drips. Now, paint itself. This stuff dries rather quickly. You don't need too much. And that'll be dry in about half an hour. And we'll come back and do some more. Okay, now the primer has dried, so we're ready to rubberize the handles. Now the instructions say put 1 inch in every 5 seconds, so this might be a bit slow. And there we go. You'll see I haven't gone right to the top of the primer yet, but I'm going to put 3 coats on, and each time I'll come a little bit above where I went before. Right, so these have now had 3 coats. I've sneaked back in while you've been gone and done 2 more, and it takes only half an hour actually for it to dry. I'm going to give it a 4th and final coat, and you'll see the result then. It's very good stuff, this. It's nice to work with. And this time I'll go as far to the top as I dare. So, 1 inch, and you count to 5. 1. Doesn't it look nice? It's a lovely bright red. And the good thing about this stuff is you can take it off with a knife. If you ever get sick of it or want to change the colour or it degrades, you just get a scalpel blade or a razor blade and it'll peel straight off. Right, let's hang it up. Now look at these. 4 coats of red, a good polish. We've shifted the rust from them. There is still a little bit of pitting. They work perfectly, as well as they're ever going to. There's just one last thing that we need to do, and it's this. We don't want these to get rusty again. And this won't stop it completely, but it will help. We just rub them with Vaseline. It takes the shine off a little bit, but that doesn't matter. It's much better than them turning orange again. Get it in all the little places. These have had some treatment, but it was well worth it in my opinion. It's time travel. We've taken these back to a time in their life when they were useful. And they'll be useful again. And there you go.